Welcome back to coverage of Windmill 2019 here in the now glorious surroundings of Amsterdam. The wet weather we've had this morning has blown through, clear skies all around. It's a beautiful sight to see. Back in the mixed division now, second round of Swiss draw, and the almighty algorithm has spewed out a game with some European flavour to it. The French side Aerbook versus Quijotes+Dulcineas from Madrid in Spain. He's streaming two fields all of today and tomorrow here at Windmill before we switch to the stadium fields for finals day. And if you're interested, going on behind us on the other field, we've got a slightly more international matchup between the Belarus mixed team and Macduff from Australia. But back, more importantly, to the matter at hand now. Aerbook starting on offense against a zone look from the Spaniards. Looking pretty comfortable so far. There's a little bit of breeze. Earlier it was wet, but still, and now the rains mercifully passed through. But there's a little bit of a breeze, so maybe some of the slightly more expansive throws you do sometimes see against the zone will get put back in a locker. Actually, it's just as I said, the wind does pick up a little bit. Doing a pretty comfortable job so far of just dinking and dunking it. Taking a reset there. There's a nice little space gainer downfield, which didn't quite have it in the right grip to get the disc out quickly. Spaniards sticking with this three up front. There's a big poach. They're really splitting that deep defender. If they can just isolate that space, maybe their overheads that would perhaps go, just being put back in the locker in these prevailing windy conditions, swinging it around the back. Quijotes staying in this zone look so far. Have players in space, but they're happy just to work the resets around the back rather than maybe try and jam something into the end zone. Players downfield letting them know that they want the disc, but it's not coming as of yet. They're happy just to really just matriculate the disc down the field, slowly but surely march it up. Very disciplined so far from Aerbook. And right on the precipice now. Just trying to get it over that plane, and instead they're just going to reset around. The Spaniards not changing their look at all. Maybe try and squeak it in that front corner. Instead, they're just going to swing it around. There's definitely a shot for goal there, and wide open in front of the end zone. Just has to stand there. So patient that time from Aerbook. Interesting starting the game with a zone. Maybe just to get out of rhythm. A lot of teams expect person coverage at the start of a game. So coming out in a zone, not always a bad idea. Just can sometimes just throw a little bit of a spanner in the works, but that time was dealt with pretty efficiently by Aerbook. Just about halfway through the day now. This is game 4 of 7 for the day. We get 4 open and women's Swiss draw rounds, 3 mixed, and then tomorrow there's slightly more mixed. So tournaments balanced so that you don't always get you get the early start one day and the late start the next day, and likewise the early finish one day and the late finish and the early finish the next day. So both sides have plenty of time. And in this 15th edition of Windmill, the game slot's slightly shorter. We're used to it being in 90-minute game slots. 75 minutes this time, just so there's slightly more time for everyone, both players and crew, to enjoy the festivities. That ball's going to land just in bounds and hop out the back of the end zone. Was inches away from being a perfect pull. I'm going to swing around the back to start. Oh, and just maybe a little bit of miscommunication. Player wasn't quite where he thought he was. So Aerbook can break here. And they're going to pick it up right on the end zone as well. Getting that handler running in, now they're going to have to swing out. And Gill steams through. Very fleet of foot. He'll play a lot of Ultimate in the UK. Based in Brighton for a while before moving abroad to Spain. You see him open up a big window there, but only through a pick, so he's going to retain possession, but Aerbook are going to get the chance to catch up. Fakes the deke, the handler clears through. Takes the swing instead. Nice snag with one hand there. Doesn't like the look down the sideline. Tries to swing it across the pitch, but it's too far out in front. Player can never quite catch up with it. Aerbook have it on the sideline. They're going to shoot deep, but there's a player waiting and poaching in coverage, and he's just going to pop up, snag it out of the sky, have a look around, make sure that she's okay. He's going to walk it now to the front of the end zone. Telegraph that look a bit slightly, maybe guilty of just locking onto the receiver and not seeing the field as a whole. So this offense looking a little bit muddled early on from the Spanish side. Gill comes underneath. Space, and the continuation cut, oh, wasn't looking for it, and it's snaffled up by Aerbook. And now maybe thinking about the deep shot to start it. There's nothing really going. Has to get around and break the mark. Nice toe in on the far sideline. Working it downfield nicely. There's a deep shot available, and it is well caught by number 8 for Aerbook, Thibaut Hubron. They break, they've really drawn first blood in this game, 2-0. But a slightly messy start, Hilary.
Indeed, Benji, it was a bit of a tumultuous start to this game, but thank goodness the weather has improved so much now. This is prime ultimate weather. What do you think we're going to see out here today, Benji?
With a little bit of wind picking up, we've already seen Aerbook come out with a Quijotes+Dulcineas come out with his own look on that first point. So if the wind continues to get a little bit stronger, we'll be interested to see if that picks up. It's only obviously two sides coming from neighbouring countries, so they would have they probably have some knowledge of each other, maybe not as in-depth as you do see with teams that play each other on a more regular basis. So we're interested to see how teams adapt and adjust. Obviously with the Swiss draw, where every point's important, making those mid-game adjustments can be crucial in improving that coefficient. So the pull goes up from Aerbook. Downfield. Finding option on the far sideline. It's a cutter that takes off deep, but they don't like that look, and they're just going to swing it instead. Big layout bid comes through underneath, but there's a heavy landing from, I think it's number 63, Andrea Cosa. It's no call though, it doesn't look like. Just going to make sure that he's okay. Little slap of hands. Everyone's signaling that the turnover stands. Good use of hand signals. See, often players get the hand signals for turnover and travel confused. So it's good to see that they've got that nailed down.
Yeah, finally, teams, you know, you've been playing for how long, and it's only then that you get it.
So on the far sideline now. Looking around, there's a dump that's gone, but there's going to be another stoppage. And a couple of stoppages early on in this game. Maybe just, this can happen early on. Teams working out kind of exactly how much contact they're happy to play through, and maybe a little bit guilty as well of slightly sketchy spacing in their offense. That's a nice inside out to open things up a little bit. Underneath goes, there's another stoppage. Again, I think a pick downfield. They really need to work on spreading that out a little bit more and prevent these collisions or potential collisions happening. He's going to look for the blade into the end zone. The wind, you could see, pushed that away a little bit. That's now something that these players are going to have to think about when they're throwing. What is the wind going to do to these throws. Fernandez is going to pick up for Quijotes. Finds the underneath cut. Strong hands there. But going to turn it over quickly, and this is another short field possession for Aerbook. Trying to get a low throw into the end zone. A nice low release there. And well reeled in. So Aerbook very much on top of things early on in this game. 3-0 they currently lead. They look like if they Quijotes can't get something sorted out pretty quickly, this game's going to run away from them.
So Benji, I'm not sure if you spoke about this earlier, but as we know, both these teams are neck and neck in the schedule, the way that the Swiss draw works. So they've been put against each other because they are 1 and 2 next to each other on the ladder. So I think we'll see Quijotes is 32 or 31, and Aerbook just one up them. Both teams went down in their first round 15-7, so both the same. Aerbook went down to Hut, the reigning champions, mixed champions here.
Yeah, 2 years in a row.
So we'll see how this game plays out, but as you said, Aerbook just have a little bit more control of this game early on.
Yeah, they certainly look more like they're prepared. Certainly they've got their heads in the game a little bit more. Obviously, with the Swiss draw, when you only find out your opponent half an hour before the game, it would be tricky to get that mindset going early on. And often it's teams that can adjust to that better that come out winning the game. Oh, went low to the ground, but did able to keep that catch alive. Now looking around, this is a high release. It's going to pop up. That's well snatched out of the sky. But
when I was quickly through their warm-up. So it'll be interesting to see how this team goes, if they are a team of pickups, and how the dynamics work with not knowing each other on the field as well.
it's always interesting, especially with Swiss draw, whereas we talk about all the points matter, getting that chemistry quickly, making those quick adjustments can be really important in improving that ranking later on in the tournament. All you need, I remember a couple of years ago, one of my friends was playing for a team, they just could not get themselves in order. First game of the weekend, suffered a pretty big loss to a team that then went on to lose all their future games. So even though they did pretty well, they could never move up the rankings because that loss hit them so hard. You got to be on your game the entire weekend for Swiss draw. Just about towing that one in the sideline. Quijotes looking for a chance to get a break back, try and reduce that deficit. Squeezing into the front of the end zone, slides to her knees to make the catch. It's like number 18 for Quijotes.
Quijotes looking a little bit more confident with that play there. Just picking up an unforced error from the Aerbook side and capitalizing on it.
This is much more what they would have wanted to see. We've seen a couple of turns over in this game, but that was the first time we've seen Q&D punch it in quickly. Strike while the iron is hot, so to speak.
We just watch this replay. Low flick pass into a mountain of people, but it gets them comfortably on the board.
Sometimes jamming in the jam hole works, Hillary. What a lovely day it is now. I cannot believe this is the weather we had this morning when you look at it now. Isn't it beautiful? There's 20 fields going on here, so there's so much ultimate to watch at any time. Obviously, we're streaming 2 fields all today and tomorrow, so there's mixed action on the field behind us as well between McDuff from Australia and the Belarus national team. But I recommend you keep it right here with myself and the human hype machine, Hillary Humes.
It is glorious, Benji, and I'm so glad that everyone has come out here to Windmill today. But if you can't be here in Amsterdam, well, you are in the perfect spot listening to us online, wherever you may be. Stay tuned for a huge weekend of massive games.
And a little top tip as well, if you want to see what kind of goes on behind the scenes, highly recommend you follow the ulti.tv Instagram. We'll be posting a little bit of just the flavour of the tournament throughout the weekend. And you follow Windmill Tournament on Instagram as well. They'll be posting some top bits as well, as we see Quijotes+Dulcineas try and level things up here. That throws a little bit high, but gets 2 hands behind it. That comes underneath, he's still going to break around, fakes the hammer. Looking around at a reset. High still just has to laser that hammer deep, and helix down to the hand really early. Never really gave anyone a chance, but on a high still thinking I may as well at least try and gain some yardage with this. One thing I think I have noticed earlier on in this game is that Aerbook seem to be utilising both genders more. It feels like Q&D running majority through their guys, but Aerbook seems to be a bit more balanced in terms of who's getting the touches. So zone look from Q&D, and a huge layout block is going to get the disc back for the Spanish side.
A hero block, if you will, Benji. That was massive.
He was baiting that a little bit. Maybe thought it wasn't going to go, but it did, and he got horizontal. Able to stop the disc going. And now with a really short field right on that front cone. Can they punch it in? Looking around, just takes the swing. There's a cutter wide open. Doesn't like the look, though. Maybe not quite the separation they wanted. Squeezing it to the front. Oh, bobbled and macked and into the end zone. Obviously not quite how they would have drawn that up, but you like the focus, making sure that the next person was there, ready to make the catch. And now we're tied up at 3 apiece.
That's more like it, Benji, isn't it? Like 2 teams who are equal on the scoreboard or on the ladder are now equal on the scoreboard. The Spaniards just coming through again, just building up 2 points in a row.
This is what you want, and this is why the Swiss draw format is so appealing. So often with tournaments, this first day you get these quite large blowout scorelines. But obviously with Swiss draw, theoretically, constantly getting matched up against even teams makes the games a lot more exciting to play and a lot more exciting to live stream as well. Interesting to see as well, you don't quite know what each team's goals are coming for the weekend. Are you aiming for a certain positioning? Are you thinking more about process goals? Do we just want to think about tightening up what we want to do with maybe some future tournament in mind? Maybe you're here just to experience the nightlife of Windmill.
Windmill brings it all, not just being quite a serious tournament, but a festival of fun.
Yeah, a serious party tournament as well. I've already on the live stream been talking a big game about getting some sort of live stream team in the beer race. You looked at me like, are we really doing that? Oh, we're going to do it.
I've been training for months, Benji, for one thing only.
For the beer race?
The beer race.
Good, because I've been training for the mingle.
Mingle.
So this zone look has not really slowed down Aerbook. You've seen them play it a couple of times. With the exception of that one layout block, they've been pretty efficient at working this round. It's leaving plenty of spaces, but they're not necessarily being aggressive downfield. They're just happy to take these resets and the little pops and swings. This is very calm. They don't look flustered at all. Aerbook. There's an over-the-top potential into that middle space, but they're just keeping it calm and working it around, and you get the feeling they'll happily do this all day. So it's not really being aggressive in forcing the turns, but it's just making them really inch the disc down the pitch.
It's just slowing them down, and it's, you know, Aerbook look fine with this zone. I think teams like this, as we see a shot through the middle to gain meters.
I thought there was definitely a scuba over to that break side, but it's not the way they want to play. They're just happy to work it around the back.
They don't want to risk it, and why would you when you have a team that can compose themselves and wait for that opportunity?
We saw this happen before. They don't transition into one-on-one coverage. They're happy just to play that zone all the way down the field, and Aerbook just going to just burgle a couple of yards where they can, and if it's not there, they're just going to reset it around the back. I just think that they've got all the time in the world. There's no pressure going on these resets.
They have players deep in the end zone. You'd think, you know, the wind isn't that high. They could just pop it up over them.
And that's not their MO. That's not what they want to do, and they're proving pretty efficiently at just swinging it around, and eventually they trust that there's going to be a relatively easy pass at the front of the end zone. I thought that might have been it, but just going to put that one back in the locker. Thinking about popping it in, tried to jump that one in, it's not there, and eventually it opens up to the front of the end zone. And just so calm and collected from Aerbook. It really did slow them down, but there's nothing really aggressive about any of that zone. So with the wind not necessarily particularly high, they're more than happy to do that.
Like a good wine, the French just like to chill and enjoy it. This side just taking their time, taking an easy morning, afternoon, whatever it may be. They just had no need to rush it, and that's quite a difference in teams. You will notice this throughout the tournament, and watching mixed is they have styles of play, and I like that they all respected that. They're not going to force anything that's not on. They're just going to let it happen. There were bounds of opportunities there for an earlier score, but not the way that they wanted to get it. They wanted to get that flat pass off. And thus, here we have it. Aerbook only one up now, 4-3.
Yeah, the Q&D O-line comes out once more. Lawrence Gill initiates underneath. So rapid across the grass. An excellent beach player as well. Presented GB at the beach level before. Going to come across into the middle. The flick's slightly wobbly, but it gets the job done. Continuation to the far sideline. Really nice snatch that from Gabkovska. And trying to squeeze it. Oh, two cutters were in the same space. I think they both left it for one another. And Aerbook not in any mood to hang around. Picking a disc up quickly, maybe looking for a deep, but underneath comes instead. Swing back into the middle. Comes underneath, catch made under tight coverage. There was maybe an up line there for a middle, but instead Mon goes back into the middle. This is looking pretty assured from Aerbook. Bit of cloud cover comes over. Where did that come from? And lovely around break into the front of the end zone. Audemond was just all over the field at that point, Hillary.
Yeah, Aerbook just dominating that moment there. You just see that they have slightly different, you know, cutting methods than the Spanish side. They're really dynamic and using the whole like width of the field. We just see in this replay, setting up, send it back to their captain, who gets into that power position for that backhand throw down the line.
Yeah, they're setting up that dump slightly towards the open side so they can dish it towards the break side, get the disc flowing in that direction. They can get that quick around break before the force gets the mark on.
So they get the break point.
Open up a little bit of a margin. 5-3, still plenty of time left in this game. Just over 25 minutes gone. Games, as we've mentioned, to 70 minutes, and then when the hooter goes, you finish the point, and that's it. Even if you're tied, Swiss draw, we can live with that. It's not necessarily satisfying. I know Americans like to call draws kissing your sister, which is a very odd turn of phrase. But Honestly, they will never know the joy of a really hard ground-out 1-0 draw. As an underneath comes for Q&D. Fantakata goes up line. There's a deep available. They're going to put it. Oh, it's going to float and fades towards the far sideline. It was always tracking it over that shoulder, and he could never quite catch up to it. Could have done with putting it slightly further out and flatter in front, giving him a chance to run onto it rather than blading it. But maybe just thinking about how can I get it over that defender.
That angle makes it tricky as well to read in the air when you're a player and you're running down trying to get these discs. When they're at such an angle, it's hard to know when to grab it, whereas they're flat, you know that you could just come onto it with your hands out and grab that.
That's a nice grab, going low to the ground to keep that one alive for the French side, and now looking down the line a little bit too far out in front. So a second bite of the cherry or the apple or whatever your proverbial fruit of choice is. Very cluttered, handler cleared through, and they're going to have to put it deep. Does make the catch in the end, thinks about the quick flip into the end zone. Just low release. They've had a lot of love with those low releases at the Spanish side, and there's another one there to make the scoreline 5-4. So, breaking news, we've got our next games being streamed. We have it from the Open Division, GB versus Ireland. And from the Women's Division, Sweden versus Austria. So two spicy, spicy matchups going into our next game.
They are going to be some very fiery, entertaining games. If you have nothing else planned for this afternoon, I would say stick around and watch them.
Well, I would say even if you do have other things planned for the afternoon, just sack it off and watch, watch the streams instead.
Or invite everyone round. Put it on the big screen if you can. Although we are 5-4 neck and neck, I have this sense that Aerbook just have a little bit more of a touch on this game. Benji, I'm curious, how do you think about that?
Definitely feels like they've seemed the most assured of the two sides. Whenever Q&D have tried this zone look, it hasn't really flustered the French.
And what they don't do is they don't transition when they get closer to the scoring zone. So it's interesting that they're just going to commit to their zone all the way through, whereas other teams might switch to man and go one-on-one defense.
It's interesting because a lot of times you see teams switch and then get beaten while they're trying to work out who's on who. So obviously switching is great if you can find the right time for it. But at some point you would think maybe they'll just change their look a little bit, because this is not troubling them at all. And they're so happy just pinballing it around the back.
They're really comfortable in these situations, as we saw earlier. They're not flustered by it. They get that beautiful break throw into space.
And oh, just about pops that one into the end zone. Very nearly got that D. Just about got away with it, and they restore their 2-point advantage at 6-4.
A lovely celebration there. They knew that was a cheeky throw, almost plucked away from them.
And you could say they kind of got away with it a little bit there, but still got away with it, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, still got away with it. It still counts. And we say this, and we see this all the time, is even if it's not pretty, the goal still stands.
Oh, yeah. They all count the same. Doesn't matter whether it's a ridiculous layout goal or whether it's just a simple pop into the front of the zone. Scoreboard racks it up the same. So you think you'll see a lot in the background is all of these tents, windmills are obviously with all the activities going on inside, everyone camps on the site as well here, so everyone's got easy access to the games and to the party. And I think maybe as the tournament goes on, there might be a little bit of so you can kind of see which team's got slightly better night's sleep. I'm not one for camping necessarily, but it's a means to an end with a tournament like Windmill.
It's all part of the experience, isn't it, Benji?
Well, exactly. Oh, that one's just going to go through the hands. So another break chance for Aerbook. Trying to strike quickly. The wind really whipped up a bit now. Cutter comes underneath. Looking into the end zone. Eventually turns around, isolates the reset. The Force does a good job of stopping that. And in the end just tries to shoot for the goal, and receiver never really had a shot at it. Was looking for number 29, sorry, Terreri. And quickly got back from Aerbook.
Pressure by the Aerbook players.
Their defense just looks so much more punishing for the opposition offense, and they quickly do punch it in, so the 3-point advantage is restored.
And a great high grab. Aerbook just easily taking this every opportunity they can. They're capitalizing on those turns, but they're applying lots of pressure on the Spanish side.
It's been a game of runs so far. Aerbook went 3-0 up, and then we were tied up at 3-0, and now we're 6-3. It's been... I wonder if we'll now see a 3-point run from the Spaniards to bring us back level again. It's been that sort of game. What a lovely day now. I'll be honest, my legs are still a bit damp from that wet commentary stint earlier, but I think I'm just about drying off now.
Yeah, Benji, I feel so sorry for you having to be bearing the weather conditions, but it's beautiful.
Oh,
now
I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
No.
She should have bought. I feel like I should have bought suntan lotion. I mean, by which I mean I definitely should have done. Oh well, I'll live. So the pool's fielded on the hop by Q&D. Throws low, goes to ground. Levine does make it stick. Now a little blade up line. Cutter goes deep. This disc's going to hang a little bit. This is exciting. This is spicy. Oh, I think the receiver just went up too early, and in the end it's smuggled out of his grasp by Aerbook. Swing, there's a player on this near sideline. She's got plenty of time to steady herself to make the catch. Now, just about snuck in there before the poaching player was able to get there. Now they're taking advantage of that free person. Swinging into the center. Nice inside there. This is nice offense from Aerbook, and well, there's something that very well we're seeing there. When they don't like what they see downfield, they're just taking these resets generally. Just changing the angles of attack, constantly making the defense have to adjust position, or defender overcommits, and there's just going to be a simple bob, doesn't take it on that occasion. Oh, and a little high release backhand, squeezing it through that narrow channel, and another break for Aerbook.
They've got quite a momentum now, and they're just riding with it.
Yeah, Aerbook totally in the ascendancy.
And they're reading the disc really well in the end zone. We saw them pick the disc up with the turnover earlier on. And we just see the replay. Aerbook get the disc close to the chalk line. And that cheeky pass, eyes on the prize. Again, not needing to use all of the space that they have, taking that option, no matter how risky it may be. It's calculated from them, isn't it, Aerbook? You just know they're weighing up the cost as they hold the disc. Is this the right shot? No, it's not on. I've lost my moment. Because if you don't pass quickly enough, you allow a defender to come in and mark that space.
So the scoreboard's just doing a little bit of catching up. So that's the reason we've seen teams change ends. That's 8-4 half time. So Aerbook building a sizable advantage going into the second stanza of this game. There we are, scoreboards Just taking a bit of time to catch over. Maybe the scoreboard had a late night last night as well. Just, I'm pretty sure one of these players for Aerbook was enjoying some late night fire pit action. A couple of players kind of decided that rather than set a tent up in the dead of night, they'd rather bed down by the warm fire, and I can kind of get on board with that. Oh, and a drop pull.
An unfortunate move for the Spaniards. That's going to play so well to Aerbook.
Just slipped through Ferreira's hands, didn't quite get his body behind it, and a simple lefty pop into the front of the end zone. Lenovel gets the goal, and Aerbook with maybe the easiest break they'll ever have.
Yeah, the Spaniards didn't have much time to set up their defense either, so it was quite a shock to them having to switch straight away into defense from offense. We're now sitting at 9-4.
Yeah, the game quickly running away from Q&D, but obviously with the Swiss draw, even if you're going to lose the game, you still have to continue putting that effort in because you can't take these big losses. It really pushes you down the rankings, especially if you've come off a tough game in your first one as well. It can be really difficult to fight your way back up.
Swiss draw is so important. Every point counts. And that's why I really like these draws, because even if you come away with a game and you've lost it, if you've continued to play as hard as you can every single moment and for every single point, whether it be 9-4 or 9-8 that you lose, it still matters and it still adds something to the draw.
What a flying layout D from Aerbook. Just a monster block from the number 18 shirt. See it again on the replay, comes steaming through. It's a huge amount of that disc and it goes out of the sideline.
Shift is into 5th gear. Aerbook are ready to put this game to rest.
Ermond picks up the disc, it's now swinging around the back. And Ermond goes up line, she gets the disc, looking at the end zone. Maybe thinks a little bit about the hammer over the top, but that's not the style of play we've seen from Aerbook. Kind of goes up line, instead of beautiful lower round break, thinks about the continuation. Force getting very active, trying to stop that break throw going, just make as much of a nuisance of itself as possible. Really good dumb coverage, squeezing it through with a lefty and then dishing it into the front of the end zone. Aerbook are all over Q&D right now, 10-4 the current score. So it's not necessarily been the close contest that we thought it might be at one stage.
It has certainly changed track lines and is now telling a different story. If there was anything that you could change and tell Q&D or give them some advice, Benji, would you offer something?
It's interesting because obviously you never know what a team-specific system is and what they're looking to get out of each game. But it just seems that there's something that's missing from their offense, and I can't quite pick out what it is. I just feel maybe try and just stretch the field a bit more. It feels like that everything's very congested underneath, and even if these deep cuts aren't getting thrown to, you just stretch those players out, you're just creating a bit more space for your offense. So the ball goes up from Aerbook. Fielded comfortably that time. See marshalling players to let them know exactly where they want them. That throw is a little bit bobbly, and I think she just took her eyes off it, was looking at the next throw before she completely had secured it. A little bit messy as cutters run through. It goes deep and takes off back towards the front cone. And that Aerbook extend the advantage 11-4 now. It's just been just so clinical this second half from Aerbook.
It's just looking easy for them now. And for Aerbook, they just don't need to do too much to just get where they need to go. I mean, there's all these unforced errors from Q&D, and I think one of the things is, let's just focus on the basics here for them. You know, catching, throwing passes, getting them flat. The wind is picking up, so we are feeling that The conditions, you know, could be a little bit tumultuous out there. And it's still early on in the game where
40 minutes, so there's half an hour left in the game, so there's plenty of time to, admittedly a comeback at this point is probably unlikely, but you can still start eating away at that points deficit, and who knows, if you get a few on the board, maybe some doubt creeps in the opponent's minds, you never know.
I just wonder though, is it a domino effect where once a team hits the teens on the scoreboard, it's just so much easier to get to that 15-point cap moment.
And there's the D game that we mentioned that maybe they should try, and oh, it's just a misread.
But also, Benji, I think that bubbled with the wind and kind of went up and down.
Yeah, no doubt, but even so, it's a catch that he would probably back himself to bring in as well, but yeah, just maybe thought he could go towards it a little bit, whereas if he kept his line, he might have been all right. The one advantage is that they have at least given Aerbook a long field to work with, and they turn it over on the first pass, looking for that low inside backhand.
This is an unusual turn for Aerbook.
And they're trying to squeeze it in, and that's a much better option. Just a flat throw. See, with the disc far away on the break side, you set the stack in the middle. That cut to the break side isn't really even a break throw necessarily. It's just flat, straight as an arrow in front. And for the first time in the second half, Quijotes+Dulcineas get on the board, but they've still got a big hole, 11-5 down.
That is quite a big deficit to come back from. And right now, I think it's an element of them just sticking with the basics and focusing on what they've got and what they know as a team. They may have a few pickups, so they may not know the chemistry isn't built up quite yet. They don't know what they can do on the field. But they need to trust in themselves, flat, strong passes, cutting aggressively, making space, and like as you said before earlier, Benji, give them the deep options, give them all of those options, even if they're not going to be available. At least you're spreading out the defensive team and making them work harder.
Spacing is one of the things that's so important for an offense. Trying to clear out. Cutters in that middle of the field open up a big space. Doesn't like that underneath, so just going to take a reset instead. Aerbook now looking deep. Goes over the head. Gill can only mack it into the end zone, but got enough of it for it to go out the far sideline. I thought I was going to have to shout at him to catch his D's.
I love that look behind to just validate with his team. Is that okay?
Oh, am I right? Am I right?
Is it good? Okay, we're good. But yeah, that was a moment where you just think, he had a really great hit on the disc, but when there's a little bit of wind, there's always an option for that disc to fly up. This is one of the very few sports where this is an option where until that disc hits the ground, it's still live. Anything can happen. Anything goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna call him out because it's a funny story. But Miles, who's playing in the last game for Devon, one of our indoor leagues in Brighton, where he uttered the immortal phrase, "Guys, if the disc hits the ground, it's a turnover." But his point being that until the disc hits the ground, it's not a turnover. But obviously, that's not quite how it came out. Sorry, Miles, love you really. I think that's going to be a strip, just a little bit too close on the mark, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Yeah, foul, uncontested. We are good use of hand signals. So disc will stay with Q&D, looking for a break. Trying to close this game up a little bit. Trying to squeeze it on the sideline. Oh, just about scoops that one off the turf. Cutter goes deep, but there's too much traffic in the middle, so they can't hit it. There isn't a round break available. Going underneath instead to the open side. Now this is much better. Using the width of the pitch, really breaking the force. It's going to be a pick there that was pretty cluttered in the center of that pitch. Wind picked up a little bit now as well. Oh, just a missed throw. And that Aerbook will get it back. Oh, Another missed throw. Not entirely sure what he was looking at. Maybe wasn't entirely sure, and defender did the right thing. Just got a hand in there, knocked it to the turf. And now they're trying to blade it towards the back of the end zone. Nice catch with 2 hands. That's a break for Quijotes+Dulcineas. And it might be a case of too little too late, but they are eating away at this lead a little bit.
Yeah, Benji, that was a really nice play, just over the top of all those players. They're having a bit of fun out there. You can't deny that they enjoyed that. And when you get a throw like that off that is, it's not that easy, clinical.
It's a little bit streaky.
It's a little bit streaky, and you just feel like it gives you that boost of energy that you need.
A little bit of swagger, maybe.
But it's still 11-6. We're not seeing massive gains. But again, we're going to see Aerbook come out in offense. So these are the key moments now for Q&D. What can they stop, Benji? How are they going to stop Aerbook? They put out a zone. It didn't stop them.
I think you've got to move away from this zone look, because it's just not, it just hasn't flustered them at all. Or at least, if you're going to do it, if you're going to play, so maybe play something a little bit different. Maybe come out in one look and then just transition to something else on the sly. So try and catch them out napping, maybe something they're not expecting. But the zone we've seen has not been effective. But the ball is fielded by Aerbook. And they're going to come down in single coverage. That's a beautiful raking low release. Nice one-handed snag there from Ubron. Dish back to Urmand. Ever constant behind the disc. Takes the dish backwards. Oh, I think maybe got a bit of a foot on that one. Certainly did enough to deviate the path away from the target. There's a pick called, I think, but only going to catch up a little bit. And now disc checked back in. Or maybe not, violation. But just weren't quite ready. Ready, waiting for this to be checked back in. Teams warming up for the next games behind us. Ferreira comes underneath. Hitting downfield, doesn't like what he sees. Shapes for the backhand, instead pops it up the line. Little hammer over the top, that's never going to get there. It's too vertical, I'm just flattening it out a little bit.
And the wind, as it picks up, it just becomes a riskier shot. So Aerbook, I can see their captain kind of just doing some hand signals. It might be an element of her just saying, let's just chill, let's just calm down. Let's use what we know, our easy game, what we've trained for.
That was a nice high snag, sorry. Looking downfield, faking around, resetting it back. They've reset the disc much better than Q&D, I think, as well, and that's so often in tight games the fact just who can keep the disc moving more constantly by utilising those easy swings. Disc pops up a little bit, oh, just about falls back into her grasp. Well, a little bit fortunate there, but they say you make your own luck, and that time just the disc not quite going to hand. Picking up, this disc slung into the centre. Lanciam finds a cutter. Again, it's all going underneath, and Aerbook are squatting on these a little bit, and Q&D are going to call the timeout.
Interesting move.
I think they're just very conscious of we need to start getting these points back quickly. So, and obviously timeout, you lose a couple of minutes, but I think they're weighing the cost-benefit analysis. It's worth taking the time if it means we're going to score, rather than try and force something. And maybe they're going to say, look, we need to start spacing out. We need to start stretching it more, because they are just sitting underneath it all. And have they got a massive spoon?
Benji, I've just noticed, I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it is does look like a huge shovel or spoon of sorts. Does that have anything to do with their team?
Not as far as I know. I would be interested to know, see if maybe at some point in the tournament we'll get an update on exactly what's going on with that. I mean, I'll be honest. I think many people are no strangers to a bit of spooning at Windmill. It's a tournament with quite a close atmosphere. I've definitely seen people getting cozy in the ball pit. That's not a euphemism, by the way. Just in case anyone was wondering, although I totally see how it could be. I think it's actually a ball caravan this year. There's so much everything else that's going around the tournament. There's a dunk tank this year as well.
I can't wait for us to get our first person dunked. I believe there's a hashtag trending on Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be.
Mike in the dunk tank.
Get Mike in the dunk tank.
I think we can do it. I mean, we might have to strong arm him in there a little bit, but I think we can do it.
I think we'll have some help from our fellow crew members. Let's get the head honcho in there.
We get some hot dunk tank action. It's a bit of a mouthful. So coming off the timeout, Q&D are going to bring the disc in. They've just got a standard vertical set downfield. The reset's a little slightly further forward from the disc, so maybe they're not going to, conscious of not losing quite so many yards. Then that reset is the immediate look, swinging towards the far sideline. There's going to be a stoppage for a pick. At one point, Aerbook were going to run away with this, but Q&D have really good job, at the very least, of slowing them down and fighting their way back into this game.
I think, taking into account that they did have a timeout, it has been about 8 minutes since the last score. So that's, you know...
This point's dragged on a bit.
This point has dragged on.
And at the very least, even if they're not going to get it back, they're preventing Aerbook from running away with it and really extending that advantage.
They're slowing them down and forcing them to change things up.
The underneath cut doesn't get thrown to. Does on the second attempt from Gapkowska. Now swinging around the back. Fakes that option. And then takes the around break. When they make a concerted effort to play it around the back a bit more, the offense does look so much better. We are struggling a little bit with spacing downfield, though. Another stoppage for a pick. Squirreling, trying to free up the dump. That's very good jump coverage and has to pop a high stall hammer. Oh, it was in the hands and just slipped through the bread basket.
Not only was it in the hands, it was almost in the legs and the knees. Couldn't keep a hold of it, though.
Yeah, the disc, not as slippery as it was earlier in the wet weather, but still slippery enough to squeeze through. Nemod takes underneath. There's a cutter deep. Fakes it out, though. Resets instead. Trying to get a cutter going up line. They've got that one. Slow, methodical progress, the kind that we've seen quite a lot this game, actually, from Aerbook. Just back to Ermond. Looking into the end zone. Oh, there's a bit available here. Goes to the ground and makes the catch. Number 8 for Aerbook is Thibaut Hubron. And I thought maybe at first he was not sure about whether he was going to have to go, but he made his mind up, got low to the ground, got one hand underneath it, secured the catch, and that extends the advantage to 6 points, one more, 12-6 Aerbook lead.
It was like he saw the disc and thought, oh, it's chasing this way. And as he saw it go past him, behind him, he had to track it down and lay out. And you can see just as he got up, he thought, that's not how I expected that pass to go, but puts everything out there.
And that's what you've got to do. You don't come all the way to Windmill to not get the glory of a layout score.
Particularly when you're on a live stream game.
Exactly. I mean, obviously I didn't come to Windmill to get the glory of a layout score, but I came to commentate on people getting the glory of a layout score, and that's, if anything, more important. It's not,
Rightly
it's
so,
not, it's
Benji.
not.
It's more important for you. That's what matters.
We've all got our own goals this weekend. And mine is get Mike in the dunk tank.
We may share the same goals, Benji.
It's always nice when you've got that team synergy, isn't it? Deep pull, just lost a little bit on the turf. And this is a danger Callahan territory. Fakes the backhand. Still count rising. Does find an underneath option. Just under 15 minutes left in this game. Just on the sideline, just a touch too far out of the grasp. It's going to be a foul called though, not contested. So Q&D will retain possession with the disc trapped on this near sideline.
Oh, had a huge run through block.
And immediately strikes deep for another break for Aerbook.
Double happiness.
Really put them to the sword there.
Number 18 on Aerbook has probably had about 2 at least, I can remember, maybe even 3 run-through blocks. A pivotal player on this team. That's the type of defensive spice that we want.
Yeah, had a huge loud block on this near sideline as well. Really putting himself all over the field. So 13-6 now, just a couple more points for Aerbook to put this game on ice.
Game cap, points cap is at 15. And we'll see them come out in defense. They know that this game could close out early. They could get a bit more of a longer break if they just put the pedal to the metal, shift into 5th gear, and get it done.
Yeah, teams in the mixed division will have 1 more game this afternoon. 2 more games still to come for those in the open and women's divisions. So the ball goes up from Aerbook. This is floaty and high, and I think this is going to go right out that far sideline and not come back in. I'm not sure entirely where it went out. I think they're just going to take it from the brick. Rather keep the disc in the middle of the pitch, really give themselves full width of the field to attack. So they just checked in. Underneath, straight run through block, just a miscommunication maybe. Looks for a reset, tries to get a lead break throw. What a snag that is if he keeps hold of it, and he does, and then a lefty, oh, just slips through the fingers, was nearly highlight reel stuff from Grabber. The grab itself was sensational, the lefty as well, just the flare on it, but just about slipped through.
You could feel the intensity in that point, and Aerbook just trying to push it and get that point wrapped up and score.
And the disc is put deep out of this sideline. It's just going to tail off and never give him a shot, and they're going to get the disc right back on the end zone line. That's the risk, obviously. When you're pucking from the sideline, you need to make sure that that disc comes back in bounds, because otherwise you're sacrificing so much field position. Looks like they're going to switch the force a little bit, try and trap them on this line. I like that. Really congest that space. Defend that open side with your life. Checked back in. Immediately going to break around, break inside even, excuse me, and just a bit too far out in front. Laid out, couldn't make it stick. Fakes the first option. Disc pops up, it was caught in the end by Gill. He's going to shoot it deep. Oh, that throw is going to blade. Ferreira tries to read it and does so. Gill has chased that all the way down the field. And then looks for the little dish into the end zone for the goal. Can he really churn up the legs? The put probably wasn't his best, but when it went up, he didn't watch it. He hustled to get down the field, and in the end, catching it and dishing it for the goal. And again, reducing the deficit. 10 minutes left. Probably, I mean, it is too much for them to do at this point.
But the glory, and also with the Swiss draw, Benji, you know, closing that margin ever so slightly. Every point counts, as you say. That was an incredible point, though. That was high intensity. I mean, players just running the full length of the field to get down there just to dish it off.
And that's what you want to see, even though the scoreline's not in your favour, still putting in that 100% effort to try and get every point. It's 13-7 to Aerbook, the current scoreline over Quijotes+Dulcineas. Aside from the Spanish capital. It's actually two capital cities matching up here. The Parisians will receive the pull. Caught comfortably on the knees, getting that body behind the disc. And Amon takes the backhand to the open side. There's an underneath cut. Getting it just in the middle a little bit. Now on this near sideline. Looking at the end zone, but there's not a cut there going. Oh, lead pass into space. He's going to sit and flow, but there's no one else in the same postcode. And now they're just 1 point away from a win.
A fantastic shot onto a leading cut. Ample room to run onto that disc. Aerbook really just comfortable and confident in their plays. We'll see what they do with defense here. They'll put on a strong line to stop whatever happens next.
Yeah, try and get this game killed early. Obviously, if you just, even if they just Q&D get a couple more points on the board, that's going to knock down the Aerbook Swiss draw coefficient. And Aerbook, a good side who just had a tough first game against many people's favourites for the tournament. In fact, the #1 seeds overall. So, at least coming into the weekend according to the prediction contest. And a big, strong win here would send them right back up the rankings. So ready now with the pull at Aerbook. It's a backhand that blades towards the far sideline and rolls to the front of the end zone where it's fielded. Ferreira has it now for Q&D. Finds an underneath of Monterde. Tries to get that up line, just about squeezes that one through and puts the shot deep. This is going to sit and float. There's a receiver underneath it. If she can read it, that's a really nice snag brought in from Natalie Pozo. You see how pumped she is about it. Nice point there. The deep shot was well weighted. A couple of defenders closing in, but she had the body position and she chased it all the way down.
Celebrates with glory, and rightfully so. But a stunning pass, so much float and so much time to allow that runner, that receiver to run onto it. What more could you ask for?
What more could you ask for, indeed? So 14-8 now the current score. Aerbook can finish the game off if they can work this down the pitch to score. Obviously they'll back themselves to do it, give themselves a little bit more of a little break, give us a little bit more of a little break as well, which would be nicely appreciated. You've just done 2 games in a row as well, so you can just go and, if I were you, I'd make a trip to Paradise, get the beers in.
And a little bit of sustenance along the way, wouldn't go astray.
That's less important.
I sense you're looking at me to be the mule.
I never said that. Although actually, now that you mention it, I'm going to be back on in the next game. So I think I'm with Sarah Sparks, which I'm very excited about. I haven't done this.
Is that 3 games in a row for you, Benji?
2 in a row. And then I'm done. I've only got 1 more game today. And then I'll be out and about, putting stuff on the ulti.tv Insta, living the dream. So, this zone look once more from Q&D. They haven't really troubled Aerbook with it so far this game. Especially that one flying layout D, but...
And they're putting this on because this is potentially the last point. If Aerbook can convert this, that's game. So they're just trying to slow them down and hope that they make an error.
That's the first time we've really seen them go over the top. A cheeky little scuba. I like that. And with the wind has died down a little bit, that's not a bad option. taking the reset back. Really using the full width of the field. Right, pressed up against that sideline. There's a shot all the way to this near side, but just going to do the sensible thing and take the swing instead. There's another one available. They do take it. See them attack the disc, so they're changing that angle a little bit. And again, this is so calm and so assured. And then right at the front of the end zone, ending it in style with a layout grab. That is how you do it.
Just like the previous game, we got a layout, one for the highlights reel, to get the finish that they wanted. Aerbook take the game, they take the match.
And that's
15-8.
And that's going to wrap it up here. We're going to have a little bit of a break, take advantage of the extra 3 minutes that we've been afforded for between these two games. They're so tight up against each other that we're have to take a break, have a bit of refreshment. We'll be back with you in a few minutes. Hilary Humes, I've been Benjamin Rees, and we'll see you on the other side.